My name is Jacques Bahati. I'm a policy analyst with the Africa Faith and Justice Network. Today's topic. We focus on the causes, consequences, and cures of the Nigerians' kidnapping pandemic and other security challenges. First, let us recognize the women of this world, our mothers, our sisters, who we celebrate today on this International Women's Day. They are more than half of the population, but their livelihood continue to be challenged in many countries. So let us call to mind that it is important to respect the rights of women, and today especially we need to make sure that we intentionally get involved in making sure our brothers, our sisters, our mothers are respected and their rights promoted. Today we gather to discuss an important issue of human security. Nigeria is or was a country known for many things, including trade, including its political influence. But today, Nigeria is known for other things, lack of security for its people especially. On February 26, the world was shocked when 317 girls were kidnapped. Days before that, boys were kidnapped. Another massive kidnapping. The world remembers the Chibok girls kidnapped in 2014. And we are wondering, is this the Nigeria we knew? And the Nigerians are saying, is this the Nigerian we want? There are many issues to this problem, but we as a human community, we do not wish to stand by, watch as Nigeria slips away from us. Each one can contribute, and we want to find the ways to be able to contribute to bringing security to the Nigerian people, especially the Nigerians themselves. So today we invited experts from Nigeria to begin this process of reflecting on ways we can go forward. So I would like to introduce those who will be leading us in this reflection. First, Dr. Juliet Njoku and Mr. Emeka Chigbu and Mr. Njoku and also Mr. Ifeanyi Emmanuel. Welcome to all of you. I would like to give Miss Juliet the opportunity to introduce herself fully, and then we go into the topic. Please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us, those who are joining us here in the United States and those joining us from Nigeria. As introduced, my name is Dr. Juliet Njoku. I graduated just as recently as last year from Walden University with a doctoral from my doctoral studies on counterterrorism. Trying to find alternative ways of countering, the Boko Haram terrorism. So I'm glad to be here to talk about the way forward for Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Juliet. Mr. Emeka, please, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. Good evening. It's evening over here, past 4 p.m. Nigeria, Abba. My name is Emeka Chigbu, a journalist practicing from Abba TV, broadcast focus, but right now I'm currently on freelancing. Did some columns for News Africa. Thank you.
Mr. Njoku, can you please introduce yourself?
Tell him to unmute himself.
Please, Mr. Njoku. If Mr. Ifeanyi is ready, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay. Good evening from here and good morning to you there. I am Ifeanyi Emmanuel, journalist. I'm based here in Nigeria. I work for the New Telegraph newspaper. Thank you so much, and waiting to talk more on these issues.
Thank you. Njoku, if you are ready, please introduce yourself.
Emeka, can you email address?
Augustine Mwabaga, can you please unmute yourself if you are not speaking? Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the discussion. As I said before, yes, as I said before, we are going to be looking at the issue of human security in this country, Nigeria. I'd like to begin by a simple question. Nigeria's role into the international scene. Nigeria's role. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. Nigeria's role in on the international scene was obviously one of the best in recent years, until maybe 20 years now, when we had this issue of lack of human security. And today, we want to understand what is the cause of this issue. I'd like to ask Dr. Juliet to begin and give us an overview from her point of view. What is it that is going on in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Bahati. I don't think we can talk about the causes of the kidnapping without taking a brief focus on Boko Haram, which is a group that plays a center stage in all that is going on. And I'm sure many people will be asking, why Boko Haram? You know, Boko Haram started, a brief timeline that was placed on the emergence of Boko Haram is between 2002 and 2009. And this group was started by Mohammed Yusuf. And it was started on the philosophy that they denounce everything Western. The Western education is haram. Haram means evil, simply put. And why do they denounce Western education? These are people who have experienced all kinds of backwardness in their communities. They believe that Western education is responsible for a lot of the ills that they're experiencing in their society. I mean, they're used to having people in their communities who they relate with go to school, get into politics, and soon become so out of touch because all of a sudden they're having big homes, they're having cars, and they're so inaccessible to the people. So they see that, they relate that to Western education for some reason, that because of Western education, people get to be very corrupt and out of touch with the people. So Yusuf started Boko Haram as a means to denounce these ills and also to instill the tenets of Islam in the community, which of course they believe is more morally just. So that was the basis for starting Boko Haram. That was their philosophy for starting Boko Haram. But then in pushing this philosophy, they had back then attacks. Of course, they attacked everything in most establishments that relates to the government. And because of these attacks, of course, there was a pushback from the government, which resulted in a huge clash between this group and the police. And as a result of this clash, of course, there was a lot of casualties. Hundreds and hundreds of people were killed. And Mohammed Yusuf, who was the leader of this group, was held in police custody. While in police custody, Mohammed Yusuf was killed by the police. All this was thought of as a strategy to try to suppress this group, that by killing its leaders, they're going to push back and they're going to be suppressed. But unfortunately, despite the casualties that they suffered and despite the killing of their leaders, what happened? They retraced, re-energized, and then they came back forcefully. And when they came back, when they re-emerged, the attacks from this group was more deadly and more prevalent. So that's a bit of a background to how Boko Haram, morphed into what we are seeing now. So, and going back to the causes, it has to do with, of course, the political, the economic, and the social. So it started, one would say, with a philosophy that looked like it had something going, because they're about, as in their minds, they're about righting the ills in the society. But as we have seen now, it has transformed into this deadly, just group. But it's still, if we look at what the attacks and the trends of the attacks now, which is on schools and on school children, they're still pushing this philosophy. They're against education, they're against Western education, they're against everything Western. So they will continue to do whatever it takes to undermine, all those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Emmanuel, please, can you add to what Dr. Juliet said in terms of causes?
Okay. If we were to directly look at the causes of the insecurity in Nigeria, I don't know if I'm coming out clearly. We should understand the peculiarities in the regions. What she just said, I agree with her, but peculiarly in the northern part of Nigeria.
The connection is very, your connection is very bad. Do you mind if you remove the video and maybe let the audio only? Maybe it will improve.
Okay. Is that okay now?
Yes.
Am I coming out clearer?
Yes, it's much better. Thank you.
Okay, I am trying to say that if we are looking at the causes of insecurity in Nigeria, we should consider the regions. What my sister just narrated is how issues began in the north. And issue of Boko Haram is mainly prevalent in the north. If you come down to the south, the historical links are different. The issue of Boko Haram is clearer. What she said is the fact. But when you come down to the south, the issue of insecurity, you can even relate it back to the unrest, the previous unrest in the Niger Delta. If you link it to the previous unrest in the Niger Delta that came before the militants were granted amnesty, you will find out that issues that brought these things on my own part, I will give them 3 points. We have issue of poor security network. We have issue of failed government We have serious issue play in Nigeria, the kind of system we have in Nigeria in terms of security, and the kind of people we elect as government officials are the major problems of Nigeria. Because when you look at the kind of politics we play in Nigeria, you consider during the electionary period, you see politicians arming talks, giving guns to youths to cause violence. And after the election, most of these youths are not employed, they are unemployed. They will use this weapon given to them to move into the streets and begin to disturb everybody in the society. Aside that, you also have the issue of fair governance, where you have people you elected in government, they watch the economy collapse, they watch everything go bad, they watch even those who were employed before, they watch them lose employment, they watch the economy go into all sorts of inflation. And when people lose job, when people are frustrated, an idle man, I believe the Bible says, is the devil's workshop. Now, when you look at the security system in Nigeria, I find out that we have a system of government that is faulty. We said we are practicing federalism. And when you look at the security architecture, everything is centralized. Now you have 36 states and you have 6 geopolitical zones and you have a centralized police system where somebody in Abuja will be dictating what should be happening in 36 states. And you are safe. If you want to send a police chief to a state, you send somebody that doesn't even know the terrain of that state, somebody who doesn't understand anything about the kind of crimes that take place in that state. You send such a person there, he or she will sit down in the office and begin to issue order without knowing the peculiarity of where he or she must have worked before to where he or she is being sent newly. No, these are the things I think cost it. And when you come down fully into the security architecture, you will understand one thing. You cannot police an environment you do not understand. You cannot. So there are many causes to this, but as we go on, I'm going to elaborate on them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Emeka, is there anything you would like to add?
Yes, thank you so much for your question, causes of insecurity, particularly kidnapping. Of course, like our dear sister, Dr. Njoku just pointed out, the issue with Boko Haram. Ifeanyi mentioned that down south, the triggers of insecurity they are quite different. Insecurity in the south, particularly in the Niger Delta region, started as a result of economic deprivation. Going back down history, there was a time when a certain General Sani Abacha was in power in this country, and he wanted to transform to become a civilian life president, as it were. And we had what we call, it was Novel then, the 1 million man march. Youths from across the country were moved to Abuja for the 1 million man march. And am I still on?
Yes, you are on.
Okay, they were moved from across the country, and it was reported that youths from the Niger Delta went to Abuja and saw the gleaming and glittering high-rise and city blocks and all that, and the beautiful things that had been done in a hitherto desert area. And of course, it was reported that the money for these came from the Niger Delta. They were triggered. And they wondered, how could this have been done in a new capital city for the country? And we from the Niger Delta, where the goose that lays the golden egg for the nation comes from, are in abject poverty. Pollution has destroyed our farmlands, our rivers. We can't fish, we can't farm. And that was the trigger that led to the insecurity in the Niger Delta. And let's not forget that historically, it is a fact that insecurity began with militants in the Niger Delta kidnapping foreign oil workers, foreigners. That was their primary target. But of course, like everything evil, it expands. Then it degenerated into kidnapping of locals, of rich individuals, locals. Then from there, it spread beyond the Niger Delta, spread into our own location, Abia State and the Southeast. And of course, when you look at the commonality in all of this, kidnapping became a source of revenue. You can earn money from kidnapping rich people who would now pay money to be released. So apart from the religious in the case of Boko Haram, down in the southeast, the south, the economic deprivation played a prominent role in the rise of insecurity vis-a-vis the issue of kidnapping. That is just what I want to add for now.
Thank you so much. Very rich discussion. Mr. Ifeanyi, are you with us?
I'm very much with you, sir. Very much with you.
Okay. Mr. Ijedu? It looks like we lost our friend, Mr. Ijedu. So now that we are looking at these causes, Dr. Juliet, do you have anything to add after listening to the two colleagues? You are muted, please.
Thank you. I definitely agree with the points of views that they shared regarding the various regions and what are the causes of the kidnappings in those regions. But as we can see, that's prevalent now. The kidnappings that are happening now are mainly targeted against school children, and they're mainly happening in the north. And that was why I tended to focus on talking about Boko Haram and the causes of these kidnappings in the north. So, I mean, we can't help but ask why the focus on school children. Why are they being targeted by Boko Haram or these terrorist groups? Why are they focusing on school children? So it comes back to the same philosophy that I talked about before that drives this group. They want to make sure that they do everything they can to undermine education. And if they're able to undermine education, they're going to, again, find a way to drill their own Islamic tenets and education, because for them, Western education is just not the thing. It's just for them, as far as they're concerned, Western education is a problem that is causing all the ills in the society. And of course, we cannot deal with these issues without talking about the endemic corruption in the country, because these issues continue to fester because there's no sincerity to deal with it on the parts of the government. We have had, just this year alone, how many of them? And how is it that in a country as big as Nigeria, as strong as Nigeria is, not one of those attacks have arrests been made and people been brought to answer for those crimes? How can this, because what that means is they've been allowed to turn this kidnapping into an enterprise. They kidnap, and what is even more horrifying is the fact that the government is even prepared to go negotiate with these people and pay them money. You're indirectly financing exactly what they're doing by giving them money. You go negotiate with them and pay them huge sums of money that they will ordinarily not be able to make on their own. So why would the kidnapping stop? It's not going to stop. So that's why I tend to, again, we have to bring the focus on what's happening in the northern parts, seemed like in the northern part. And since this has been happening, all the ones that our brother Emeka and Ifeanyi talked about in other regions, they tend to have quieted down now that, this issue of Boko Haram and kidnapping of school children just continues to be on the rise. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't know if I can add something to that, Mr. Bahati.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, in the Northeast, the Boko Haram Western education is a sin. I mean, that is just the philosophy over there. And they kidnapped in Chibok, in Dapchi, with that philosophy. But we have to make something quite clear. What happened in Niger State and in Katsina State recently was not done by Boko Haram. It was done by bandits.
Clearly.
It wasn't Boko Haram. It was bandits, and these bandits. The reason why they keep going after school children, boys, and little girls is because they see those points as soft targets that they can practically walk into anytime The area is unprotected, as it were. Pick up those girls, and the government, like my sister pointed out, will be ready to negotiate with them and pay them money. It is a fact that the government paid money for Chibok girls. Some were released. The government paid money for Dapchi schoolgirls. They were released. The government has paid money for Kankara. The government has paid money for the latest kidnap of schoolgirls. So, but we have to be clear about the facts. Boko Haram is not responsible for the kidnap of the school children in Niger State and in Katsina State. That's just the point I want to make. Thank you.
I would like to get to the problem of...
Can I say something?
Yes, is that Mr. Njendu?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
If you have something to add, please go ahead, but I want you to also focus on the issue of community relationships. In this story about the lack of security, we hear farmers versus herders. What is this all about?
Well, there is a problem in Nigeria which the government has failed to address. It is the issue of the people being very angry with those that are ruling or leading them. That is part of this very problem you see between herders and the farmers. But besides that, there is the issue of the introduction of a strange, so to say, a strange set of herders from outside Nigeria, as has been recently confirmed by even those that are in authority in Nigeria. The entrance of these people has contributed so much to the problem we are facing in Nigeria today between herders and farmers. I remember when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, we used to see them around. They were grazing everywhere, but they were not entering our farms. They were not destroying things. They graze where they see the opportunity to do so. And
now the question is, if they use to enter into people's farms, why is it that they are doing what they are doing today?
Please, I didn't get you. Please, can you repeat what you said?
Yes, you are saying that before, when you were growing up, you will see them grazing anywhere and peacefully grazing. What changed that they become now violent? If they are,
good.
I don't know. What changed?
There is, to my understanding, an introduction, like I said, of a foreign sect of herders who entered with a mission. And that is the reason why we are seeing the changes we are seeing. They do not want to relate with those who own the places where they have to graze. All they want to do is to cause problems that will perhaps escalate into a fight and things like that. At the moment, there has been efforts made even by communities of farmers here in the state where I reside. Efforts are being made to have a relationship with them, but most of them, because they do not actually come in peace, I must say, they are doing things that they should not do ordinarily. They even enter into groves where people, those traditional religious worshippers, have their sacred things, and then they destroy them. These things ought not to be so.
There is another issue of vigilantes, self-defense. This concept comes on when government has failed to adequately provide security. Yes. And that is a wrong path to failure of a state. If everyone had to fend for themselves to secure themselves and their families and what belongs to them. Can somebody help me understand why people should be defending themselves when they have a government?
I have to say something.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry if I'm cutting anybody short, but I would like to start from the issue of vigilantes, but I have to make something very clear here. This issue of farmers, herders clash, I think it's a media creation because I do not believe that farmers are clashing with the herders. Rather, herders are attacking the farmers. I have never heard for one day that any farmer attacked a herder. There's a difference between clash and someone coming to you to deal with you, to kill you. You are only saying, please leave my place, please go back. That is not a clash. A clash is when two persons fight. Rather, one person here is killing the other. That should be made very clear. And now, away from that, sir, I will talk about the issue of vigilantes and telling people to defend themselves. You see, I said it from the beginning, failed government. When a government has failed the people, they begin to give you alternatives that are very ridiculous. Remember when Nigerians were shouting on the president, calling on him, pleading with him to change the service chiefs because many believe that they have overstayed their welcome, in fact. And these men were there, things were going wrong. Nobody, the leadership did not do anything about it. Men were being slaughtered, people were being kidnapped, even in the president's states, in his own state in Katsina, nobody was safe. No, these issues were going on and on and on and on and until they found out that everything has gone out of control. Someone is now coming to tell people to. Remember, let's even get this right. Even when we had the olden days vigilantes, the country was even more secure. Because when you talk about vigilantes, except if somebody is giving a wrong definition of what a vigilante is, as long as I'm concerned, when we have community, regional and state vigilante groups, men who understand their territory very well, these people will always understand when a strange man, a strange age, a strange group enters their environment. They know. They even know better than the current one we are using. So if you are telling us to do that, all we need is going to do, not just bringing people you don't know their profile together. So a lot of persons will misinterpret it and give it a wrong interpretation of what it actually means. But if we are going by what we already know before, it will be a good path, although people see it as negative. We see it as negative because almost everybody is biased on the issue of security. And what do I mean by that? People believe that security must be left in the hands of some certain individuals who are on uniform. And that is a very, very wrong notion. For me, I believe that security of information, that is proactive security, not a security that is reactive, is far more better than what we are doing now. When you come to Nigeria, you see a lot of security officers with guns moving up and down, but that cannot stop crime. But this is something that someone could have knit on the board if there are right information, getting to the right proper places that it should get to, not keeping security away from the people. It should be brought home. Like where you are, some of you are in the US, you have your police, you have your county police, you have your state police in different way, and you come here, you centralize everything, and you expect it to work. That's what I'm saying. It should be brought down, not really in the form of vigilante, but it should be brought down to what people have been asking for. Probably regional or states that will be backed up by law.
Thank you. I see Mr. Emeka is itching to speak. I know that people are raising their hands. We are going to give you time to also speak. Mr. Emeka, go ahead and take 1 minute to 1 minute and a half to talk about this issue of farmers, vigilante. What's going on?
Okay, it's very clear. I mean, there's no need to mince words about it. It is a certain group, militant herders, militant Fulani herders. From as far as Mali issue causes mayhem. The farmers have their crops, and the herders, the militant ones, come and eat up their herds and drive them out of their ancestral lands. Now you have the concept of internally displaced persons in Benue, in Plateau State, and other parts of the Midwest of the country. I mean, that was a strange concept. So it's not a case of farmers clashing.
The thesis of your argument early on, can you just start from the beginning?
No, it's just the point is that it is not farmers and herders clashing. It's a certain group of militant herders who have come from outside of the country, who are well armed and well heeled, trying to chase people out of their ancestral lands in Nigeria. We have IDPs all over Benue and Plateau states, people who cannot go back to their ancestral lands. So it is not a clash, it is an attack to drive the indigenous natives away from their lands and take over their lands. That is what it is. Let's be quite clear about that.
Thank you so much.
And I would
tell me, why would foreigners come into Nigeria and drive people out of their homeland?
Well, it is very unfortunate because we have never seen it like this before until recently. Although we have heard from a politician of note in Nigeria in the Senate that, a politician in Nigeria that these people came from outside around 2015 for the purpose of doing certain things for the political party in power during the elections. And after that, we now saw, just like Emmanuel once said, that the politicians are part of the problems we are facing in Nigeria because they train thugs, arm them to disrupt elections, and thereafter they disband or they abandon them, and these people now take up arms against those in politics and against the society. So at the moment, we have a people that are coming in, perhaps, like I said, yes, must be for an agenda. Otherwise, it is very clear that certain states where they are predominant, their operations are predominant, could have made an example of some of these people. But we have never had such a thing happening. We see that they go scot-free, they kill, and then they maim, they take whatever they can afford to take, and nobody is called to answer for such actions. They go scot-free, and tomorrow you see the same cycle continuing. I think the government has something they must tell Nigerians about this kind of developments. Otherwise, I wonder what they want Nigerians to believe about them and what is happening to Nigeria at this very moment.
Thank you. Dr. Juliet, do you have any additional comment about this issue of farmers and herders, or just the fact that governance is an issue there?
Yeah, definitely. Just like the speakers have shared, we all grew up back home. We all knew about these herders. We experienced lots of them growing up, and they coexisted with the communities that, because they're always on the move. They coexisted with the communities that they encountered. So it begs the question, why that in the now, what we see is a totally different scenario. They go into communities and they destroy and pillage and kill and rape and do all sorts of evil. And yet, none of them, no arrests, no accountability, no prosecution. So one has to ask, what is going on? And when people talk about that, there seems to be an agenda playing out. It may not be proven, but it's not difficult to try to piece things together, seeing what is going on. You can't help but, piece things together and say, there has to be an agenda going on, because this is so unprecedented in our country that people agree these are foreign elements. It's been postulated they're foreign elements. And like one of the speakers mentioned, they were brought in for a certain purpose initially. But that's what happens when you start banditry. You can't control, how it morphs or how it transforms. You might bring them.
That's why we are acting right now. We need to act now, because if we stand by and let things continue to get worse, the Nigeria we want, we will not have it.
there has to be sincerity on the part of the government to deal with the problem, but we don't have such sincerity yet on the part of government. So how things cannot start to be resolved and unless this government is sincere about its intention, its purpose, and the goal to deal with this problem.
As an organization, we are a Catholic organization, the Africa Faith and Justice Network. We have been doing a lot of work in Nigeria on issues of empowerment. And from the grassroots, we have been able to initiate some programs and the results are very clear. So I am with you on the issue of governance. When people are empowered, then they take charge of their problems and the solutions are obvious. That is another topic when we will be presenting and sharing some ideas how to go about organizing. But I want to ask this question related to leadership. We as a Catholic organization, we know that the Catholic Church in Nigeria is a huge organization. And recently they issued a document and they say we must pull back from the brink of collapse. Is that enough? A document? Is that enough, or you need Catholic leadership? Father Barthélemy Bazemo, if you are with us, you are a Catholic priest, and Father Nelson, the director of FGen, you read this document. Talk to us about it. Bazemo, please.
Yes, I've keenly listened to what all of you have shared about the current situation in Nigeria. It's not only in Nigeria, it's now extended to the whole of West Africa, Sahel belt, talking about Mali, Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso. This is a problem that affects all of us. That's why we need to work together towards finding a common solution to the problem. And we need to unite on this issue. And I like the statement of the bishop. They're there to name the problem. And if some of you had the opportunity to read the statement, in the second paragraph, they ask a question whether the leaders are unable or unwilling to address the problem. I believe in somehow they have the capacity to do something. Why is it that they allow the situation to fester to the point that people lost hope? So I believe that it's not saying that the Catholic Church should go ahead and solve the problem. How can the Catholic Church be a uniting force to bring all the Nigerians together towards speaking with one voice? This is an issue that affects everybody. And the fact that they were able to address the issue and call all the different stakeholders to be part of the solution, I think that's the beginning of the solution. So personally, I've been to Nigeria several times. Nigeria is a powerhouse, not only in West Africa, across the whole continent of Africa. So it's mind-boggling that Nigeria is not able to address this problem. And that begs the question, what is the real problem that we are not told about?
Yes, thank you, Father Baz. What is the real problem? Father Nelson, can you follow up on that question? You as a Catholic priest, is there any expectation that the Catholic Church needs to do more? And also maybe other faith tradition, because with jihadism, that is already a religious tone to the conflict. Father Nelson, are you there?
Yeah. Thank you all for your contributions. And as I'm sitting here reflecting and listening to one another, is really nice to hear, but at the same time, it saddens me to hear that it's Nigeria that we know that has become like this, as most of you pointed out. Recently, I was talking with one of our colleagues, fathers, and he was mentioning how he grew up, as our sister Juliet mentioned. He grew up in the 70s, and as a young guy, he was even traveling by air free. A lot of things were free. He would just board a bus. And once you are in school uniform, you not pay anything. The only thing you have to do is when you see an elderly person, you get up and you hand your seat to the person. So things have really gone way, way, way backwards. And we're all talking about it, we're sad about it. And I think that is what the bishops were trying to address. That is up to all of us. Everyone must be part in the dialogue. Yes, we can blame others. We can say that they are the cause, but we cannot just sit down and look at them continue that way. So like the bishops have tried to point out what the issue is and how you must go about it, that is through dialogue. You must all get together in dialogue. Yeah, there are certain ways that maybe when dialogue fails, we have to use force, but in the appropriate way. So I think it is a good beginning, as we are doing now, dialogue, and you find a way forward. So the bishops have given a way forward, but they should not end it there. How do we lead, continue to lead the Christian population as well as the rest of the population to come to this real dialogue that they are spelling out?
I think that is a very good question. I go to Augustine. I think Augustine is a Catholic priest as well. How do we continue to move forward? Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning.
Mr. Bahati, my hand is up if you have a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Father Augustine. I am here in Florida. I so much thank you for this opportunity. I got this information few minutes to the start. And personally, I am touched situation in Nigeria, and I want to look at it in a holistic approach. There is a fundamental problem. And until we tackle the fundamental problem, we can't get it right. And what is this fundamental problem? Leadership. The concept of leadership, excluding responsibility and accountability, is brutality. If we must talk about leadership, we must bring in these two concepts. Our leaders are not accountable and they are not responsible to the people that gave them the position. Just to think of it, President Buhari contested for presidency for how many years? Since 2015, he became a president. How many times has he visited any state in the South on a visit to go and say, how are you? Solidarity visit? None. And look at the idea of it. When we were growing up, when you see an Hausa man, somebody from the North, you call him Aboki. Somebody from the West, Onyofe Mano. Somebody from the Igbo, you call him Nyamere. So these derogatory names imparted into our psyche, that divisiveness. And those in leadership have continued to use this to destroy the nation, because I don't have confidence on somebody that is not from my tribe. And I cannot give any responsibility to such a person. And with that, Nigeria cannot move forward. But if we run it as a country where everybody has the common purpose of moving the country, it will definitely move forward. The bishops, the church, have done enormously great. Remember, the church is the moral voice of the society. The bishop and the Catholic Church can never encourage you to carry weapon, can never encourage you to do anything. The only thing the church will encourage you, that little position you are occupying, to make it, to be accountable and to be responsible. And there is a concept of power that I have just discovered that is taking root in Nigeria. The concept of power of I am above. In the Igbo, we call it nkare. That is a wrong concept of power. The real concept of power should be seen in humility, should be seen in service. What will I give at the end of my stewardship? So I so much thank you for this platform, and I pray that we translate the love, the passion we have. I came to America 2018, and since I came to America, I've been crying for Nigeria. Because if you're in Nigeria and you hear America, you would think that is a place God has designed to be where it is. But this is where human beings designed it to be where it is. I live in Gainesville. Gainesville is just like a bush. But I make good money that sustains me. That somebody in Abuja cannot.
Thank you, Father Augustine. Father Augustine made a very good point. This derogatory naming is genocidal. It got to stop. And this attitude, I am above, that he just denounced, I think it's prevalent in Nigeria. I don't want to go in deep details. I think as we continue the dialogue, we will have to look into that.
Bahati, before you go forward, I just want to briefly comment on some of the highlights that the bishops raised in their letter. Especially, yes. They said that, of course, the alarm they're raising in their letter is out of a deep sense of patriotism for Nigeria. And they also made a very important point. They said that, of course, for every nation building, there's a cost to it. They know that there's been increasing clamor for opting out, for people to just self-determination and all that. But they pointed out that they believe in the viability and desirability of the project called Nigeria. But to be able to sustain and build this project, there has to be, again, the issue of sincerity on the part of government, you know, and that the country we can continue to go the way we're going in this country because it's not sustainable. So for there to be a change, there has to be a genuine dialogue. And I know they quoted His Eminence, Francis Cardinal Arinze, by saying that for you to have a genuine and honest dialogue, one has to be able to listen to the other. You talk, I listen, I talk, you listen. Until the government is prepared to have this dialogue amongst groups, between government and people, and amongst people themselves, we cannot even begin to make a way for, just begin to move forward. There's so much that's gone wrong with Nigeria that, again, it all circles back to the issue of the sincerity on the part of government to even begin to address these problems.
I really thank my panelists because so far we have been focusing on the problems. Unlike some meetings I have attended where it's all politicking and blaming and tribal blame and all that, focusing on the problem will lead us to better results. Now, I want to go to Father Ernest. No, Father Charles, and then I'll go to the phone with Nee. After Nee, Father Ernest. Please, if everyone has about 2 minutes, and then we will be trying to wind up.
Okay, thanks, Bahati. So you and I do know that there is a secret romance that is going on in the Nigerian society. And that secret romance is the romance between religious leaders and politicians. And so I know that Father Augustine did mention the issue of the moral voice, and I will allude to that. But however, the question now that I would ask is where is the power of the pulpit when it comes in the interaction between the politicians and our religious leaders? Now, you and I do know that these politicians are members of our religious communities, different religious communities. But let me be very, very specific. So let me talk about
those politicians who are Catholics, for example, who want to affiliate to their Catholic leaders. And so we ask, how often do we hear the voices of our religious leaders when we have crises going on, aside from communique? Yeah, communique, I welcome that. But however, when we have other crises that tend to shoot out through things like protests, for example, we know that the NSAS, which is the most recent, we didn't hear the voice of any religious leader, you know. And so you tend to ask, since our religious leaders have the opportunity of mingling with these politicians when they go to have photo shoots and they go to do courtesy visits, and then they call it advocacy visits, for example, and then also you welcome them when they come to raise funds or to contribute to the upkeep of the church's institutions, most especially the institutions of learning, because we know that recently politicians they use constituency funds in order to renovate institutions, in order to be approved by the constituents who are also members of the same religious cycle. So my question is this: where is the position of the moral voice of our religious leaders at this point in time, most especially when there are crises in relation to protests, for example, which you and I see very, very visibly?
Thank you. Thank you. You pointed out this bad romance between religious leaders and politicians. I can confirm that. Is there any bad romance between the two? How can the relationship between our leaders be for the good of the people? Ni Akwete, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, everybody, especially AFJN. I am Ni Akwete, and everybody who has spoken so far is either Nigerian invited to as an expert to discuss this, or connected to AFJN or the Catholic Church. I am not in any of those categories, although I regard AFJN as a very important organizational brother of mine. I feel very close to everybody, but formally I'm not a member of even AFJN. I am Ghanaian. I've lived in Washington forever, but I grew up with Nigerians in Ghana because the two countries moved back and forth. A Nigerian ambassador here said to me, "Oh, Ghana and Nigeria are like Pepsi and Coke," but he did not say which one was which. So, and then I moved to Nigeria to set up the George Soros Foundation for West Africa. So I lived in Nigeria actually, and during the time of President Obasanjo, he wanted us there. So I worked with all these higher-ups.
Yes,
and then
go
moved
ahead
back
and address the problem that we
Sure.
are discussing.
Okay. The point that I want to bring to the discussion is that I've listened closely, and everything that everybody has said, there is nothing I disagree with. I just want to add an additional point, which is the external factor. As Father Bazimo said, this is in other parts of West Africa too, other parts of the Sahel. Also, what has happened between the U.S. and the Middle East, terrorism in the Middle East, ISIS has blown back through the Sahel into the Great Lakes region. And this is important. And the other final point, external point, is AFJN is in Washington. Of course, with technology, you can reach anywhere in the world. But we are talking from the United States. And I think what we must not forget is that the United States, in its foreign policy, has a role. I frankly feel that they don't help Africa sufficiently. They help other countries. You can check how they react to ISIS, which arose up after Boko Haram, and serious people in the United States have said that ISIS was second to Boko Haram in how deadly it is. But the United States formed a global coalition that spent about $1 billion with a B every month to crush ISIS. But when it comes to Boko Haram, it's like, well, let the Nigerians deal with it. Yes, let this, let that. I agree with everything everybody has said, including leadership and failures and all that. But every society has imperfections. You cannot say because they are not perfect, let them burn. So I'm appealing to all of us that we are talking from the United States. Part of our job is to put pressure on the United States government to say, no, African lives matter too, and you have to help Nigeria and the West Africans, give them the necessary and good help so they can protect their peoples. Yes, Nigeria and the government and the communities have to do their part, but let us not forget the United States government and its own role. Thank you.
Thank you, Ni. The solidarity of anyone on this planet with the people of Nigeria is welcome. Nigeria has more money to be able to buy the equipment and all the tools they need to secure and guarantee their security. Where is that money going? Where is that money going? The skills that Nigeria has shown on the international scene in peacekeeping and so on, where did it go? The Nigeria we knew, where is it? Father Ernest, 2 minutes. Father Ernest is muted. We can't hear you. Last chance, Father Ernest. There was a question that is here in the chat. If paying off the kidnappers does not help but perpetuate the problem, then what is the government response supposed to be? Should the lives of the children be at risk? How to safely transition away from paying off the kidnappers in a safe way to ensure that most lives are saved. So that is a very good question. Should government continue to finance the bandits so that they can continue to expand their empire, or should there be another way of dealing with them? Paying them off, that is their lifeline. Not paying them, it causes harm to those they kidnap. What should we do? I'd like to offer an opportunity to someone to speak. Otherwise, okay, I'm gonna give okay, Emeka.
Okay, thank you so much. The Nigerian military, I believe, is capable of solving to a large extent the problem we have in this country. Reference what happened in Abia State, Aba, sometime back 2012, 2013, 2014. Kidnappers, bandits ransacked the city of Aba and chased virtually everybody out of the city. The city emptied out in a couple of days out of fear. But the military rolled in, contained the situation, killed, arrested the bandits, and the city was restored to normalcy. Why is it still so very, very difficult for the same military to replicate this same feat elsewhere within Nigeria? Negotiating with bandits is a double-edged sword. President Yar'Adua granted amnesty, the argument from some quarters, the silver bullet, as it were. But then the bandits, it's still to be argued. These are bandits. Some have said, don't negotiate with bandits. Well, I tend to agree with that. The foreign governments, the British government have to be strong in putting pressure on the Nigerian government on these issues. I think we should look at that.
Thank you. Dr. Juliet, any comment?
Yeah, to add to what Emeka said very aptly, how we have to try to avoid a problem so that we don't have to deal with the consequence of inaction. Again, everything continues to circle back to insincerity on the part of government. Because if government is sincere about dealing with this issue, we won't even have the problem of having kidnappings and thinking of negotiating with the bandits. So the government has to do its duty of protecting, because if the government protects its citizens, the bandits will not have the opportunity to kidnap. That gives rise to an issue of negotiation. But then again, you know, why even negotiate with the bandits is the question. Like Emeka said, it's a double-edged sword. What do you do in a situation like this? Should we not negotiate and let the children, you know, unimaginable consequences? But here, like Emeka mentioned, we have a military that's capable only if equipped to do their job. But why are they not equipped to do their job? Because of the issue of corruption. Government corruption does not allow the agencies, the security agencies that should be doing this job of protecting, to be equipped with what they need to do their jobs. So how is it possible? And that's why we keep dealing with the consequence of insecurity, because we have refused to do the work it takes to protect. So if government can be sincere enough to do its job of protecting, then we wouldn't have to deal with negotiating with the bandit, because it never works. That never yields good results. Never.
I would like to call out Emmanuel and then Mr. Njoku.
Okay, I'm still on the road. Sorry about the noise, but I have to contribute something on this issue of what should we do. Am I coming out?
Go ahead, keep going.
Am I there?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the issue. Everybody is talking about sincerity and not negotiating. There's only one solution to all this. Whether we like it or not, whether we rig my role around it or not, is to restructure Nigeria. You can never move further without politically restructuring Nigeria. And restructuring Nigeria means changing the style of security system we have. You see, when people begin to suspect issue of conspiracy between the leadership and some of these people that are doing this, you do not blame the people. Because my brother Emeka just said something there on how the issue that happened in Abia was handled and how the ones happening in the other parts are being handled. Now you have people who say they stay in the bushes, they stay in the forest, you know where they are, and a certain group of persons are going there to meet me. They are identifiable. Still come to the society and tell the people you are leading that you can't fight these people. This thing is happening because some persons occupy the security system and they don't want to let security be restructured. But by the time you restructure Nigeria, I remember when although most of us read it, during the First Republic, and they said when you have regional governments, every region of Nigeria were competing to make sure that they succeed more than the other. None of these regions could have tolerated this level of insecurity, because what this insecurity does is that it scares away investors. No region would have allowed it. Every region would have battled it tooth and nail to make sure they nip it on the bud. But now you see the level of this conspiracy people are talking about. When it happens in another place, they deal with it outrightly. When it's happening somewhere, they now treat it with kid gloves. Now you begin to see the reason behind the suspicion of conspiracy. So that is why the best way is to restructure the country so that those who do not want to develop will not be drawing others back, so that those who want development can develop on their own. We still answer the same Nigeria, but allow them to be controlled according to regions. I remember when we had the Eastern, the Western, and the Northern region. Go and read it properly. You find that they were competing economically and otherwise, and Nigeria was growing.
We thank Emmanuel Ifeanyi for his passionate. He's proposing that Nigeria need to be restructured. The security system need to be restructured. We can no longer tolerate this kind of behavior of kidnapping. We get used to it. Paying the bandits is no longer acceptable. Mr. Njoku, go ahead. Emmanuel, your time is up. Njoku is on. Thank you. You are muted, Mr. Njoku. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Okay, thank you, Mr. Bahati. Emmanuel was correct to an extent. Of course, that I believe will solve part of the problem. But if we are still thinking of staying together in this country as one nation, I think certain things have to change. For instance, the way the police operate here is nothing to write home about. In fact, the issue of systemic failure is part of the challenge here. You discover that the police, to an extent, have lent a helping hand to people who are committing all sorts of crimes. You discover that our Nigerian police people take in trades and they come out and nothing changes. It is very unfortunate. Before this age, I remember being killed. In fact, you'll be warned not to just move anyhow or talk anyhow in the streets, because the police then was very active and they were using real core intelligence, not the force that we are seeing today. The force that the police is using is abnormal. It is beyond what the law has provided for, and it is not achieving anything. I believe that the police should reorganize bandits. We must have to nip in the bud the plans or the arrangements made by bandits to kidnap people. We should stop efforts made to kidnap people if we don't want to pay bandits. That is the one thing I am suggesting. And to do that, we have to have a police that is dependent on very core intelligence to be able to stop things like this from taking place.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make you all aware that we are 16 minutes beyond our time. So it is important that we end this meeting. But I want to underscore what our brother, Mr. Njoku, just said. It's worth looking into whether the police are lending a helping hand to these bandits. Somebody who might be benefiting from this kind of things should not be part of those who need to be responding to the crisis. So I see Father Augustine with the hand up, and Father Nelson. Father Augustine, go ahead. You have 1 minute, and then Father Nelson. Thank you.
Yeah, perfectly accepted with them. But just like the question you asked, I was in Aba, particularly at Oberete, when the kidnapping was going on. The kidnapping at Oberete and Abia State was solely sponsored by the governor. The governor wanted his security vote to be extended to 1 billion, and OTC Kanku was the guy in particular. Where OTC Kanku, where they camped, was less than 20 miles from the parish where I was with a brother priest, Father Magnus. Whenever they bring in food from the government house, you will hear their gunshots. So what is happening in the north now is exactly what happened in Abia State. The government sponsors this terrorism, this wickedness to their citizens in order to have a selfish gain. Because at the point, they are not talking about settling these guys. The question would be, when they are settled, who gets the money? Still the politicians. Thank you.
We know that corruption is one of the things that Nigeria has to address, and that is unfortunate. So as we go forward in reflecting on the way forward, we need to have something related to corruption. Father Nelson, I saw your hand was up. Please, can you go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that listening to everyone here, we tend to liken the problem or bring the problem squarely on the face of government. government leaders, politicians. So if they are the cause, then it means we have to solve from there. And how do you solve that? And I believe we can through the demand from the people themselves. The people must ask the government to do what they want. And if the government does not do it, then the people must remove them. How? Through protest and through voting and dialogue, as we have said. So I think it's time you remove all these politicians. They are old enough. Young ones must come in. Young blood who will come in with dignity, with respect, will also, with all means of doing things in a sincere way. I think that is the way forward I see. So the people must demand from their government, and if they refuse, they remove them, change, and bring in new ones, especially the young ones.
So Father Nelson is
yes, can I say something?
A new generations of politicians. Hopefully they can
I say something?
New ideas and new way of doing things. Njedu, please.
Can I say something here?
Yes, yes.
Yes, on what the father just said, I align with that. But I believe too that the government, for it to function, they have to have a transparent system of oppression. And I urge you people in the US to help ensure that I know Nigeria is a sovereignty and you can't push everything down their throat, but the US can help us through policies to ensure that we get certain things right. There are certain basic things, for instance, our electoral processes. If we don't have a very dependable electoral process, it will be very hard to enthrone people who are credible in Nigeria's political sphere. And we also need to have the government show the will to allow the people say what they feel like about their government. You heard about what happened recently in Lagos, the Lekki massacre. And these were youths who came out to protest what they feel is bad about an agency of government, and all of a sudden, the whole thing took another shape. I wonder who would want his child to go out to protest so that at the end of the day, he comes back a corpse. So I believe that we can get, those of you in the US can help ensure that our electoral processes are corrected so that Nigerians who go to the polls won't come back regretting why they ever made an effort to go and vote. That is my contribution.
Thank you. Dr. Juliet, last word.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Ijendu. For a government that is all concerned about suppressing the voice of its people, it's not prepared for a dialogue yet. And until the government is prepared and it's willing and is sincere enough to begin the conversation that is needed to start turning things around, these problems will only fester.
We need to prepare the government to sit down and in an honest way to see how we can move forward. So Dr. Juliet is believing that, yes, do we have leaders who are really willing, political will, to really move this country forward? I'd like to give Mr. Emeka a last word.
Okay, thank you so much. We've talked so much about the politicians, the military, the police. I think we should equally mention the judiciary in Nigeria. For me personally, I think we need a born-again judiciary. We know the role that the judiciary plays in a country like America. Even President Trump could not have his way as much as he wanted because of the judiciary. The Supreme Court sometimes will rule him unconstitutional in his decision. A certain national security advisor in this country took $2.1 billion meant for arms to fight Boko Haram, and the case is still in court. You would wonder, how is it possible that somebody can take that amount of money, $2.1 billion, A certain general recently took 400 million naira from the coffers of the military. And these things are able to happen, and yet there is no punishment. I think the judiciary equally should play their part. There should be a rebirth in the judiciary. That's just what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emeka, advocating for a strong institutions, especially the judiciary. Father Baz, are you there? Do you have a last word?
Yes. My last word is to commend all the contributions that we had about this important issue that many countries are facing across Africa. I believe that this is the beginning of our conversation. This is not the last. Please stay and be awake, scrutinize more what is happening, because if Nigeria is doing well, West Africa is doing well. And beyond West Africa is the whole of the continent. So we are likely going to convene another meeting again, and we are very grateful that we're able to, share our views and thoughts. But at the end of the day, each one should bring his or her contribution. We cannot only send the blame to our leaders. We share some, I would say, some responsibility. So before we can talk to them, let us also be involved. What can I personally do today to make sure that Nigeria is a better place for all of us? So that was my last.
Thank you so much. Today is International Women's Day. We want to honor once again our sisters, our mothers, and so on. So I wanted to kind of close this meeting by bringing in the voice of our sister Eukeria Madueke, who is the coordinator of Women Empowerment Program. She has been doing a lot of work in Nigeria. Please, Sister Eukeria, you've been hearing these things. Do you feel like these problems in Nigeria are affecting the Nigerian women, which is one of the aspects we did not explore today, is the consequences. We did not even get close to discussing these consequences. So, Sister Eukeria, you have the last word of this debate. In honor of all women, please speak to the issue of Nigeria, your country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bahati, and thank you so much for everybody that is here. I just want to say that we have a saying in this office, IFJN office, that when spider web unites, we can tie up a lion. And I believe that the problem of Nigeria, if we unite, we can tie up the lion. I want to think about women riot, about women group, because I don't want to use the language riot because they were not rioting. How much these women worked together and they were able to challenge the colonial masters. And I still believe that we in Nigeria, if we unite, we will be able to challenge the government. I'm not talking about, it's not going to be easy. We know it's not going to be easy, but we are not going to leave the country for them. Yes, Mr. Bahati, you asked about how this is affecting women. You know, girls that are kidnapped, how are these girls going to be murdered without having psychological problems? How are they going to raise their own children with all that trauma? Think about the mothers. It has a huge impact. Well, if they are raped, think about how they're going to, get married to having a loving affair with their husbands. I can't count the impact this is happening on women and also on men. But the reason I'm, particularly talking about women is that these are the mothers of tomorrow. They are the ones that are going to carry their children in the womb. You can imagine a woman under trauma and she's having a child in her womb, then giving birth, nurturing this child. So it's a huge impact on the nation. But I want to also say a little bit about what we talked about the bishops, what the bishops are doing. I want to let you know that the sisters are doing great in Nigeria in terms of trying to make Nigeria a better place for the women too. especially focusing on the violence against women and children. And the way they do it is, it doesn't matter which congregation, it doesn't matter if they're from the north or from the south or from the west, they come together and they pay visits. And when they're going to the visit, advocacy visit, they carry the media with them. And that has worked. In Edo State today, a lot of us, we know what happens in Edo State, that Edo State is epicenter for human trafficking. It was the sisters that began to raise this up. Because what is wrong with our country is that information is not out there. And that's where I challenge the media. You are on a mission. Give us out. Tell us what is happening because you know it. Then let people pick it up and keep, because as we talk to young people, talk to people get to know, then they get angry. Then they want to, righteous anger, I'm not talking about righteous anger. Then they want to act. So I think I'm just going to leave it like this. But I believe that when Spiderweb unites, as an individual, you cannot do anything. But as a group, we will be able to do something and rescue our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sister Eukaria. She has been very effective with the Women Empowerment Program in Nigeria, going from the grassroots, delivering concrete results. Places where they are held trafficked women closed. I say closed because of the concern and the organizing. That's why we can go from letter to mobilizing. We can go from letter to mobilizing, and we are able to do that. My name is Jacques Bahati. I'm policy analyst with the Africa Faith and Justice Network. I would like to invite you to a second reflection so that we can strategize and probably find out who do we need to respond to. Do we need to respond to the bishops? Do we need to respond to government? Do we need to respond to Sister Eukaria so she can show us what she does? Anything, anything. Doing nothing is not an option. So email me at bahati@afjn.org. It's B for boy, A, H, A, T for Tom, I @afjn.org. We will get in touch with you, and we will let you know when we will be having another conversation of this kind, even better. Thank you and have a wonderful week. And thank you for your interest.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.